The new Pokemon games are finally here, and while there's a lot of great things like the open world, multiple storylines, and new Pokemon designs, a lot of people are really frustrated that we're getting another what seems like incomplete Pokemon game with low fidelity in terms of graphics, frame rates, and even a lot of glitches going on. So you might find yourself asking, what are the other monster taming games I can play if I'm tired of Pokemon or want to change the pace? And if so, stay tuned to see 5 different monster taming games that you can jump into right now that might be better than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. For those of you who are fans of the channel, this should be no surprise that the first game we're going to mention is Coromon. It is a pixel art game inspired by Pokemon. It's a modern take on the classic monster taming genre, and it was fully released on March 31st, 2022. The game is available both on Switch and PC, and hopefully we'll have a mobile release of this game as well, so it has a little bit more accessibility than Pokemon. And instead of focusing on 3D models and huge open worlds, Coromon is really a love letter to the Game Boy Advance era of Pokemon games. So if you really miss that pixel art and those era of games for Pokemon, and that's what you're looking for and you'd like to get back to that, I can highly recommend Coromon for that reason. It's amazing in terms of art style. In more ways than one, Coromon is what Pokemon would look like probably if it stuck to its GBA roots and stuck with that pixel art. You'd get something like Coromon with a lot of quality of life features, really great Coromon designs overall. This game is also inspired by Legend of Zelda, so you will get some puzzles throughout, which are not mind-bending by any stretch, but definitely breaks up the gameplay. And like I mentioned, the PvP scene is very, very accessible. There is no grinding, no breeding, no egg moves, no move tutor moves. It's very easy via the UI to jump in and start playing online as well. There's also not a prohibitive timer, so the 20-minute timer will not be a problem if you do decide to want to play competitive Coromon. I also want to note that the music in this game is top-notch as well. As you go through the different areas, one, they're very distinct, and the story has a lot of ties to like ecological saving and development. But as you go through each different area, the music is really great. I know for a lot of these games, as you're playing them in handheld mode, you want to have a great soundtrack. And this is, I would say, one of the perfect Switch games. In a lot of ways, like I mentioned, if you were to have one of those older Pokemon games on Switch with those same graphics and that same kind of feel and charm, you would get Coromon. It's about 25 hours, give or take, for the main story. So what's to lose? You can play it on PC or Switch, hopefully mobile soon, and I highly recommend you check this out if Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not your cup of tea. The dialogue is also really snappy and funny as well, so if you want a little bit of comedy in your games, definitely recommend this one. It's a fun monster taming game, it's a fun monster collecting game, so I highly recommend it if you're looking for something a little different. Temtem is a very interesting creature collection game that recently released September 6, 2022. For most platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC, the game is marketed as an MMO, which is a massively multiplayer online experience, though there is some debate whether or not the game fully leans into that MMO status or if it's more of an add-on feature. I'm talking about this more as a solo experience, but you can do co-op as well, and it technically is an MMO. There are currently 164 Temtem to collect, and there are 8 dojos you'll go through that serve as the main means of progressing through the story, very similar to gym battles that you'll see in traditional Pokemon games. Although I have mixed feelings about this game overall, it's a little too grindy for me, and I'm not a huge fan of double battles, but if you are a huge fan of like really grinding your team, and you do love a double battle ecosystem, the entire game is built around double battles. There are no single battles. Temtem is a double battles game. Every Temtem, almost every move, most abilities / traits are going to be geared towards a very strategic, team-oriented double battle format. If you've heard those things and you're still interested, the last thing I will point out is that I would not recommend getting this for Switch. If you have a PC, Xbox, or PlayStation, the performance is way better, and I think we're seeing that with the new Pokemon game, that the Nintendo Switch hardware is just aging and it's harder to build out these really fleshed out, really detailed, high-performing games in general, but the performance on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox is really solid. You also have to have an internet connection at all times, another reason why I would not recommend it for Switch. But if you like the grind, if you like double battles, and you have another platform other than Switch, this is a game I would definitely take a look at as an alternative to Pokemon. It's a lot of fun, it's very detailed and vibrant, the world seems alive because you do have other people running around a little bit, although you won't interact with them. The Temtem designs are very unique. There are very few times, if any, that I thought, oh, this is just a Pokemon clone with a different name or skin or, some unique feature. Most of the Temtem seem very unique. The battle style, I think, is very strategic and it's a little bit more difficult than Pokemon. So if you want a game that is a little bit more difficult, better performing, double battle, monster creature collector, this is definitely one that I would highly take a look at, but I would look at other reviews and gameplay to make sure that it's worth your $44, because that is a steep price. It's like a full Pokemon price game. So to me, this is an alternative. You probably wouldn't play both. So make sure to check out enough gameplay and reviews, but I wanted to name it because it has released recently and could be a good alternative for you if you're looking for performance and other things in your creature collector game. I'm a little surprised and disappointed that I've gone this long without talking about the Digimon franchise. And no, I will not be recommending Digimon World 3, even though it's great and everyone should play it. I actually want to recommend Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, the Complete Edition, which is available for both Switch and Windows. The Complete Edition includes 2 games. You're going to get Digimon Cyber Sleuth and Digimon Cyber Sleuth Hacker's Memory in the Complete Edition. The first game was released in March 12th, 2015 for PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4, but both of these games were ported in one package for Windows and for Nintendo Switch. I would recommend both games independently, but the fact that you can get 2 games in one is really great value. The roster in these games is amazing. The amount of evolutionary paths you can go through is astounding. And if you're playing on Switch, a lot of the grind of this game is removed because you can leave it in sleep mode and your Digimon will still level up and grow in the farms if you decide to use those. These games are 3D dungeon crawlers that, although the graphics aren't groundbreaking because again it was released in 2015 for the Vita and for PlayStation 4, the performance of the game is solid. You can also get it on Steam if you wanted to get that 1440p 60 frames if you would like to, but it runs perfectly fine on Switch without any glitching or clipping. A lot of things you might be experiencing now in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In terms of recent Digimon games, these are the most similar in terms of story and mechanics and gameplay to Pokemon games, but they're different enough that you could play one of these or both of these games and still enjoy something like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or it could be an alternative if you're looking for something that's a little bit more in depth and a little bit more expansive in terms of the roster that you have and how you team build. Also, if you're a Persona fan, I haven't played that series yet, but I am looking forward to getting into it, hopefully in the new year. I've heard that these games have a lot of Persona-esque-ness in them, so that might be a plus for you too if you're looking for a creature collector. If you want to get back into Digimon, maybe it's been a while, maybe you play these Pokemon games, you're like, oh, I really miss Digimon, what are they doing? This would be a pretty good entry point. There are other games like Digimon World Next Order, but they don't play quite the same as Pokemon, they're more VPET. This is more you have a team, you raise them, you level them up, you learn new moves, so on and so forth, and get stronger. So this is a pretty good entry if you wanted to have that Pokemon-like experience and want to jump back into Digimon as well. You can commonly find the Complete Edition for Switch for like 20 bucks at like GameStop or maybe on eBay, something like that. So relatively cheap, 2 full games that I think the stories are both solid for, and a huge expansive roster that has been really easy to build around and build to because of the quality of life features added for this Switch version. So if you are again playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and you're just like, I'm ready for something different, I want to try maybe Digimon again, these are the games I recommend and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Let's talk about the other new Pokemon game, which is Pokemon Legends Arceus, and a lot of people really loved the way that this game changed the franchise. One of the key things that people enjoyed about it is the way you capture Pokemon. You sneak up on them, throw Pokeballs at them. There are many challenges within your Pokédex to catch like 10 or so Pokemon, or some at a certain size. And it was just a really refreshing way to play these Pokemon games. The performance of these games aren't like top notch, but I do think they are better than Scarlet and Violet. That's a really low bar, I understand, but there's nothing really game breaking. You may have a frame drop here or there, but mostly the world seems kind of vast and too open at times. But when you are doing your different outbreaks for different Pokemon, your shiny or alpha hunting, or even making your way through the main story, it's a really enjoyable game. It's fun. It almost reminds me of a cozy game, like a cozy Pokemon game where you're catching things, the music is soft, you're exploring, it's adventurous. There are new Pokemon and new Pokemon forms as well. So if you don't quite like the traditional battling Pokemon, throwing them out there, but you want something that's more refreshing but still Pokemon, I highly recommend you check out Legends Arceus. There are tons of reviews, we have one as well. There's tons of gameplay to look at, but it's a fun casual game, and ultimately I think refresh the franchise in a way that a lot of people were hoping Scarlet and Violet would more directly continue upon. Also, in case this is important, and in case you do at some point plan playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or you already are playing those games, is that you will be able to transfer Pokemon from Legends Arceus into these new games for certain forms that you can't get otherwise. So it's still in the Pokemon ecosystem, but it is a really fun game that I highly recommend you check out, especially if the gameplay loop of the traditional Pokemon games is kind of worn on you over time and you're not too impressed by the performance of these newest games. Legend Arceus is a way to maybe wait out and see if we get a patch for Scarlet and Violet for performance, and while you're playing it, there's a good chance you really enjoy it. So check that one out, and let's move on to our next game. And the last game we'll talk about is the game I've most recently played, which is Monster Sanctuary. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite Switch games, not just creature collection or monster taming or battling, but just overall Switch games is becoming one of my favorite very, very quickly. And overall has a more mature feel compared to some other games. I would say it's up there with Coromon in terms of Pokemon-like games, in terms of being a monster creature collector with pixel art, a great story, and on Switch it's just so much fun. You can pick it up and put it down so easily. I think it's relatively inexpensive. It pretty frequently goes on sale in the eShop. So if you're looking for maybe a different genre of game, but you still want to have those really cute monsters or powerful monsters, but you want some more puzzles, you want some more navigating different platforms, this is the one for you. It's a really fun game. Even if you're playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and you enjoy it, this is still a game I'd recommend picking up because it's just so much fun. So those are 5 monster taming games we recommend you play if you're not into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but there are so many other games you can play. There are things like Ni no Kuni, Shimatami Tensei as well. So there are tons of new monster taming games that I highly recommend you check out and think about if the Pokemon franchise maybe isn't for you anymore. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy Pokemon, if you enjoy other monster taming content, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Alright, bye everyone.